and welcome back to Friday Reads. My name is Jill.
And I'm Julie, and Jill and I are standing outside of the library this morning. We're in front of the Kimberly Municipal Complex at the American Legion Monument in honor of Veterans Day. So this week's picks are books that feature veterans as main characters, have to do with war. Turn it over to Jill for her first pick.
So my first pick is Jarhead, a Marine's Chronicle of Gulf War and Other Battles by Anthony Swofford. This is the first Gulf War memoir by a frontline infantry Marine in its searing, unforgettable narrative. When the Marines, or Jarheads as they call themselves, were sent in 1990 to Saudi Arabia to fight the Iraqis, Swofford was there with a 100-pound pack on his shoulders and a sniper's rifle in his hands. It was one misery upon another. He lived in sand for 6 months. His girlfriend back home betrayed him for a scrawny hotel clerk. He was punished by boredom and fear and considered suicide. He pulled a gun on one of his fellow Marines, and he was shot at both by Iraqis and Americans. At the end of the war, Swofford hiked for miles through a landscape of incinerated Iraqi soldiers and later was nearly killed in a booby-trapped Iraqi bunker. Swofford weaves this experience of war with vivid accounts of boot camp, which included physical abuse by his drill instructor, reflections on the mythos of Marines, and the remembrance of battles with lovers and families. As engagement with the Iraqi draws closer, he is forced to consider what it is to be an American, a soldier, a son, and a man. Unlike the real-time print and television coverage of the Gulf War, which was highly scripted by the Pentagon, Swofford's account subverts the conventional wisdom that the U.S. military interventions are now merely surgical insertions of the superior forces that result in American casualties. Jarhead insists we remember the Americans who were wounded or killed, the fields of smoking enemy courses behind, and the continuing difficulty that American soldiers have re-entering American life. So, Jarhead is my first pick.
My first pick is a nonfiction pick, and this was a title that piqued my interest. This is Soldier, Sailor, Frogman, Spy, Airman, Gangster, Kill or Die: How the Allies Won on D-Day by Giles Milton, published in 2019. It's got great reviews on Goodreads. It had a 4.4 rating. 78 years have passed since D-Day, the greatest seaborne invasion in history. The outcome of the Second World War hung in the balance on that chilly June morning. If Allied forces succeeded in gaining a foothold in northern France, the road to victory would be open. But if the Allies could be driven back into the sea, the invasion would be stalled for years, perhaps forever. An epic battle that involved 156,000 men, 7,000 ships, and 20,000 armored vehicles. The desperate struggle that unfolded on the 6th of June 1944 was above all a story of individual heroics, of men who were driven to keep fighting until the German defenses were smashed and the precarious beachhead secured. This authentic human story, Allied, German, French, has never been fully told. The vast canvas of human bravado reveals the longest day as never before. Less is a masterpiece of strategic planning than a day on which thousands of scared young men found themselves staring death in the face. It is drawn in its entirety from the raw, unvarnished experiences of those who were there. So check out Giles Milton's book, Soldier, Sailor, Frogman, Spy, Airman, Gangster, Kill or Die: How the Allies Won on D-Day.
Wow, good choice. The next one I have is a classic. This is Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. In 1979, Tim O'Brien's Going After Kakiato, a novel about the Vietnam War, won the National Book Award. In this, his second work of fiction about Vietnam, O'Brien's unique artistic vision is again clearly demonstrated. This is neither a novel nor a short story collection. It's an arc of fictional episodes taking place in the childhoods of its characters, in the jungles of Vietnam, and back home in America 2 decades later. So, The Things They Carried. I see this referred to all the time.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you that like our Love Inspired, there's actually a series. This is The Veteran's Vow by Jill Lynn, and it was published this year. Could his biggest fear be what he needs to heal? After a traumatic brain injury, military vet Bear Delgado refuses the one thing that could help him, a service dog. But Ellery Watson is sure the perfect pup will change Bear's life and offers to work with him one-on-one. As Bear sets about overcoming his fears, Ellery's surprised to find herself opening up about her troubled nephew. Will family obligations force them to deny what's in their hearts? This is from the love-inspired Canine Companion series. It's actually book number 3. They're by different authors. It starts with Their Unbreakable Bond by Deb Kastner, then Finding Her Way by Lisa Carter, then this book, and then there's 2 more that follow. So it's part of the Canine Companion series for vets.
I like that little feel-good. Dogs. My next one is fiction. It's Young Blood by Matt Gallagher. The U.S. military is preparing to withdraw from Iraq, and a newly minted Lieutenant Jack Porter struggles to accept how it's happening through alliances with warlords who have Arab and American blood on their hands. Day after day, Jack tries to assert his leadership in the sweltering, dreary atmosphere of Ashuria, but his world is disrupted by the arrival of veteran Sergeant Daniel Chambers, whose aggressive style threatens to undermine the fragile peace that the troops have worked hard to establish. As Iraq plunges back into chaos and bloodshed and Chambers' influence over the men grows stronger, Jack becomes obsessed with the strange, tragic tale of reckless love between a lost American soldier and Rana, a local sheik's daughter. In search of truth and buoyed by the knowledge of what he finds may implicate Sergeant Chambers, Jack seeks answers from enigmatic Rana, and soon their fates become intertwined. Determined to secure a better future for Rana and legitimate and lasting peace for the country, Jack will defy American command, putting down his future in grave peril. Pulling readers in a captivating immediacy of conflict that can shift from drudgery to devastation, Youngblood provides startling new dimension on both the moral complexity of war and its psychological toll.
Good pick. My third pick is back to nonfiction. This is The Fighting Bunch, The Battle of Athens, and How World War II Veterans Won the Only Successful Armed Rebellion Since the Revolution by Krista Rose, published in 2020. It's the incredible untold story of the World War II veterans who destroyed a corrupt political machine, the only successful armed rebellion on U.S. soil since the War of Independence. They fought for freedom abroad and returned to find that they had lost it at home. A corrupt political machine was in charge, kept in power by violence and stolen elections, the worst allegations of vote fraud ever brought to the attention of the Department of Justice, according to the Attorney General. The GIs formed a nonpartisan all-veteran ticket. On Election Day, the GIs and their supporters found themselves assaulted, intimidated, arrested, and even shot. A small band of veterans, the Fighting Bunch, armed themselves and marched on to the jail to demand an honest count. The sheriff and his men refused. These men who thought they had seen the last of war returned to the battlefield one last time. This episode in U.S. history has never been more relevant, but has never been fully told. At the time of the rebellion, national news outlets jammed the phone lines into town, asking questions before the shooting had stopped. Journalists beat a path to Athens from across the country. Hollywood came calling, but the people of McKean County had moved on. After years of research, including exclusive interviews with the remaining witnesses, archival radio broadcasts and interview tapes, scrapbooks, letters, and diaries, author Krista Rose has reconstructed one of the most seminal yet untold events in American election history. I was not familiar with this story at all, but I thought this was an interesting one to include.
My next one is a National Book Award winner. It's fiction. It's Redeployment by Phil Clay. Phil Clay's Redeployment takes readers to the front lines of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, asking us to understand what happened there and what happened to the soldiers who returned. Interwoven with themes of brutality and faith, guilt and fear, helplessness and survival, the characters in these stories make a meaning out of chaos. This book is a series of short stories from the war zones of Iraq and Afghanistan. In Redeployment, a soldier who has to shoot dogs because they were eating human corpses must learn what it's like to return to domestic life in suburbia, surrounded by people who have no idea where Fallujah is, and where 3 members of the platoon died. In After Action Report, Lance Corporal seeks expiation for a killing he didn't commit, in order that his best friend will be unburdened. A Mortuary Affairs Marine tells about his experience collecting remains of U.S. and Iraqi soldiers both. A chaplain sees his understanding of Christianity, his ability to provide solace to religion, tested by the actions of a ferocious colonel. And in the darkly comic Money as a Weapon System, a young Foreign Service officer is given an absurd task of helping Iraqis improve their lives by teaching them to play baseball. These stories reveal an intricate combination of monotony, bureaucracy, comradeship, and violence that make up a soldier's daily life at war, and the isolation, remorse, and despair that accompany their homecoming. So, Redeployment.
My fourth pick is a popular author. His books fly off the shelves around
They
here.
sure do.
As soon as a new one's published, it's in the lucky day and it's gone. This is Dave Baldacci's Zero Day, published in 2011. War hero John Puller is known to be the top investigator in the U.S. Army's CID. So when a family with military connections is brutally murdered in a remote area of West Virginia, John Puller is called to investigate and soon suspects the case has wider implications. As the body count rises, he teams up with local homicide detective Samantha Cole. As the web of deceit is revealed, it quickly becomes apparent that there's much more to this case than they had first thought. It's an investigation where nothing is as it seems and nothing can be taken at face value. Since also a series, this is the first book in the John Puller series, which has 4 primary works. This author has been publishing books since 1996. He has over 45 novels for adults. He also has, I think, 7 or so novels for younger readers. So, all total, he has sold more than 150 million copies worldwide. So, David Baldacci's John Puller series with a war hero as its main character.
Awesome. So I've had a lot of serious books about what it's like on the front lines and things like that. And I have another one that is kind of not as serious, but it is a true story, and it was made into a movie by Apple TV. The Greatest Beer Run Ever. The memoir of friendship, loyalty, and war by John Chick Donahue and J.T. Malloy. Recently made into a movie on Apple TV, a wildly entertaining feel-good memoir of an Irish-American New Yorker and former U.S. Marine who embarked on a courageous, harebrained scheme to deliver beer to his pals serving in Vietnam in the late 60s. One night in 1967, 26-year-old John Donahue, known as Chick, was out with friends drinking in a New York City bar. The friends gathered there had just lost loved ones in Vietnam. Now they watched as anti-war protesters turned on the troops themselves. One neighborhood patriot came up with an inspired, someone call insane, idea. Someone would sneak into Vietnam, track down their buddies there, and give them messages of support from back home, and share a few laughs over a can of beer. It would be the greatest beer run ever. But who would be crazy enough to do it? One man was up for the challenge, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran turned merchant mariner who wasn't about to desert his buddies to the front lines when they needed him. Chick volunteered. So this is his story about going into Vietnam with a pack full of beer to see his buddies.
Nice to have not such a heavy pick.
Yeah.
My last pick is San Miguel by T.C. Boyle. This was published in 2012. On a tiny, desolate, windswept island off the coast of Southern California, 2 families, one in the 1880s and one in the 1930s, come to start new lives and pursue dreams of self-reliance and freedom. 38-year-old Marantha Waters arrives on San Miguel on New Year's Day, 1888, to restore her failing health. Joined by her husband, a stubborn-driven Civil War veteran who will take over the operation of the sheep ranch on the island, Marantha strives to persevere in the face of the hardships, some anticipated, some not, of living in such brutal isolation. 2 years later, their adopted daughter, Edith, who's an aspiring actress, will exploit every opportunity to escape the captivity her veteran father has imposed on her. Time closes in on them all, and as the new century approaches, the ranch stands untenanted. And then, in March 1930, Elise Lester, a librarian from New York City, settles on San Miguel with her husband Herbie, a World War I veteran, full of manic energy. As the years go on, they find a measure of fulfillment and serenity. Elise gives birth to 2 daughters, and the family even achieves celebrity of sorts. But will the peace and beauty of the island see them through the impending war as it has seen them through the Depression? Rendered in this author's accomplished, assured voice with great period detail and utterly memorable characters, this is a moving and dramatic work from one of America's most talented and inventive storytellers. So San Miguel by T.C. Boyle.
Well, we hope we helped you find something to read if you want to read about veterans in honor of Veterans Day, or you are a veteran and you want to relate to these people.
We thank you for your service. If you are veterans, I have my favorite veteran with me today. This is my dad, who served in World War II. He was in Japan at the end of the war. Dad, I miss you immensely, but thank you for your service. We hope that we gave you some good picks. Like, comment, share. Let us know what you're reading. Find us on our Facebook page. Find us on the Kimberly Public Library YouTube channel, which has been getting some more views than we used to. So we thank you for that. And until next time, we thank you for watching. Bye-bye.